Hello all, welcome back to my channel. So far we have been dealing with the basic data types, the if conditions, the for loop, while loop, functions, vectors and whatnot. We have also covered a little bit about strings, but we have not covered in depth, or we have not gone beyond just understanding that it is one of the data types that we have in both R and Python. So in this tutorial, we'll try to learn what are the few other things that we can do with string. And as we all know, we have been hearing it for the last few years that most of the data, 80 to 90% of the data in today's world is unstructured in nature. So it's always good to know how we can operate with strings. So even if we have some unstructured data which is not in tabular form, where you have the rows and columns, if it's something like a textual data, so what are the few things that we can do with strings? So in this tutorial, let's try to cover a few things that we can do with strings, and then during our exercise section of the tutorial, we'll cover little more about not just strings, but also with the loops, the conditions, the functions, and all the other things that we have learned so far. All right, enough of my doing the talk. Let's now get started with strings. So one thing that we can do with strings is looping through a string. So let me say we have a sentence and I name the variable as sent. This is Python programming. And now if I run a for loop for this, for I in sent, and if I print I would be getting each of these letters printed one by one. So if I click on shift plus enter, we have T getting printed, then H, I, S, then the space, and so on up to programming G. So looping in string is very similar to looping in list. We'll also try to see how we can break this into, instead of letters, how we can break this into words. But before that, let's try to see how many elements are there in the string. Let us try to use a small string here, sent2 equal to Python. And now, if I want to find the number of elements in the string, which is nothing but the length, or how big is the string, how many characters are there in the string. So if I just do a len of sent2 and click on shift plus enter, there are 6 characters in the string. So even the length function, just like it works for lists, it also works for the strings here. Great. Now detect if a letter or a word exists in a string. So let's use the same sent sentence here for this example. Let me just print this first. Sent is this. Now let me add a few cells. Okay. Now if I want to detect if a letter or a word exists in this string, let's say if I want to detect if there is this word Python in this string, what I can do for that is I can just type Python in sent. So I'm just asking you a question here, a typical English sentence. Python in sent. So I'm not putting a question mark, but apart from that, it is purely English. If I execute this line, it says true, which means the word Python exists in this string. If I say R in sent, what do you think the answer will be? You can pause the video and think about what the answer would be. Well, R in sent. Now, what it would do is it would just look for that letter R, and here it is. Since R does exist in the string, the answer would be true. So if I execute this line, shift plus enter, it gives me the answer as true. So whether you write, 3 or 4 characters or just single character, this still works. All right. Now let's, if you want to detect if a letter word does not exist in a string. So if I say Google in sent, so as we all know, in this sentence, there is no word called Google. So if I execute this, it should give me false. But what I'm trying to do here is I'm checking Google not in the string. So I can use something like not. So Google not in sent. So I'm just asking, Google is not in sent. I'm just confirming. If the answer is true, which means Google is not in the sentence. So with in, when I used in, I got the answer as false. Now when I use not in, I would be getting the answer as true. So it's just the opposite of what we did earlier when we're checking if the word exists in a string or not. All right, coming to slicing, indexing in a string. Let us print this once again. Sent is, this is Python programming. All right. Now, if I want to do a slicing here, I can do it just like I did for list in one of my previous tutorials. So if I do slicing here, 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3. So I have to type up to 4. Only then I can see all these 4 letters. Now if I execute this, it would give me this as the answer. Similarly for indexing, if I just want to see the I here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the 5th index. So if I just type 5 here and execute, it would give me I here. So once again, indexing and slicing in a string works exactly as a list. Okay, coming to split a sentence to words. So since we have this sentence which is having these words, but the whole thing actually is a string. So we can see the quote only at the beginning and the end. What if we want to break this into 4 different words? So the way we do that in Python is using the split function. So sent.split method. So if I just use sent dot split, now what is sent? Sent is just this variable which has this string with it. So I just have to type the dot split, and inside the parenthesis, if I click shift plus tab, I have an option of putting the separator. And separator for me is going to be a space here. So I'm talking about this particular space. So what I'm telling this particular operation to do is, whenever you see this space, split it. The next letter that comes after the space should be the next word. So if I execute this, I get 4 different words here. This is Python programming. So this now comes as a list of 4 words. This was just a string. Now we have 4 strings, all of them in the inverted quotes. And these are now 4 elements in a list. Okay, now if I want to replace a character in a string, let's try doing that, like what we did in a list. So if I do something like sent, and let's say I want to replace is, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So index 5 and 6 is what I want to replace. So I would say 5 to 7 because it will only take up to 6. And if I say this is equal to was, and if I execute this, it does not allow us to change the string. So it says str object does not support item assignment. However, if we still want to change that word, we have an option of using send dot replace. And here, if I click on shift plus tab, I have to mention the old string and the new string, which means if I want to change is and change it to was. Now, I also have this option of count equal to -1. Please do explore what exactly is count equal to -1. We shall work on this in our exercise section. So right now I'm just using is was, and now if I execute this, now what is happening is this. So wherever it sees is, it replaces that with was, and then is again gets replaced with was. So this is Python programming. Now it is thwas, and then once we have another is there, it again gets converted to was. So this is how we do a replacement of strings using Python. All right, now let's move over to R. In the case of R, we'll be using a library called stringr. And to call the library, we use the library stringr like this and execute it. Just in case you do not have this library, all that you need to do is go to Tools, Install Packages, and then just type stringr, and there it is. So you just have to click on the Install button. Since I already have this, I am clicking on the Cancel button now. All right, once you have installed stringr and you call it using the library stringr here, now let us try to understand how do we do a looping in R. So like we did in Python, let's create a sentence here. Sent equal to this is R programming. Okay. Now if we have to loop through it, we have an option of using this str underscore split. So if you just see str underscore has got so many functions, so many operations that we can do using the stringr package. So if you just browse through, maybe you can explore what else we can do with stringr. But let us try to solve this problem, and we'll be working on more of these str operation in our exercise tutorial. So in this case, since we are trying to loop through, first we are trying to do is we are trying to split it. So str underscore split, and inside split we pass the string which is nothing but sentence, sent, and the pattern here is nothing but the blank space. So what I'm trying to tell R is, please give me each of these characters. So if I put something like this, it would look for the blank space. And I'm not looking for a blank space. I'm looking for no space at all. So which means the moment it reads the first letter, it is just going to print it. And then it will go to the next, it will print that. And that's how this is going to process. So if I just execute this line, before that, let me execute the sent variable here. And now once I execute str underscore split, it is split this sentence into each of the alphabets here, each of the character. So we also have an empty space, we also have the hyphen here in R programming. All right, now if I assign it to a variable, say temp, once I execute it, now if I want to run the for loop and print them one by one, I've already done the printing here, but if I have to use a for loop here, I would be using it like this: for I in temp, and then print I. And now if I execute this for loop, it would print each of these letters one by one, just like what it did over here. All right, now to find the number of elements in a string. So if we have to find the number of elements in a string, which is, it has to count T, H, I, S, the space, all put together, how many characters do we have? So we have this option of using nchar, n number of characters, and nchar. So in that, if I just pass sent, which is nothing but this variable here, and if I execute it, it would give me the answer as 21. So if we count each of these characters, including the space, the blank space, it would be giving me 21 characters. All right. Now, if I have to detect if a letter or a word exists in a string, now here we use a simple English sentence, right? It's like an English statement, R in sent. But here we have function which is str underscore detect. And in str underscore detect, we are passing the string, which is nothing but the sentence here, and the pattern. Let's say we want to detect if there is this word called R programming. So if I type R hyphen programming, so if I just run this command, it would say true, because R programming indeed exists over here. So I don't have to type the whole thing. I can still just use R program or just R hyphen. And if I execute this, it would still give me the answer as true. All right. Detect if a letter word does not exist in a string. I will not do any copy paste this time because last time I did have a problem of doing a copy paste. So let me just type it all over again. Str detect send. Now if I want to see if the word Google exists, Google, does the word Google exist in this sentence? Actually, it does not exist. Let us just see what it has to say. If I execute this, it gives me the answer as false. But if I want to check, Google does not exist, right? That's what I want to ask R. So I would be putting an exclamation mark here, which means I'm just negating whatever I'm asking here. So if without the exclamation, it is like asking, does this word exist in this sentence? Now, the moment I put an exclamation mark, I'm asking, this word does not exist in the sentence, right? That's what I'm asking here. So now if I execute this, since it does not exist, it would give me the answer as true. So once I execute this, it would give me the answer as true. All right. So as far as slicing is concerned, we can use this function called str underscore sub. So it's like substituting. And inside that, if we just pass the string here, which is the sentence sent, and so if I want to slice from the starting position 1 to ending position 4, which means the first 4 characters, and if I now execute this, it would give me this this. So it's giving me the first 4 characters. So that's how we do the slicing. And if I have to do the indexing, if I just want the first index, I can straight away just type 1 here. So it'll just give me the first index. And if I similarly have to get the second index, I can do a very similar, start off with the second index and end with the second index. So that's just another way of indexing. But yeah, most probably we would be preferring to use the slicing in the string operations. Split a sentence to words. So if I use that same sentence here, and if I have to split it, there is a function called str underscore split, string split. And here once again, I pass the sentence sent, and the pattern would be, since I want all the words and all the words are separated by a space, I would be using a space here. And once I execute this, I would have these 3 words getting displayed. So this is how I can split a sentence to the respective words. And finally, replace a character in the string. So just like we have the string split, string substitute, string detect, this is sort of English here now. So here we have to find string replace. Sorry, replace. And yeah, please do explore about the other options that we have for replace and also for the other functions. So here I'll be using string replace, and inside the function I have to pass the string, the pattern and the replacement. So the string would be sent and the pattern would be, I would be passing R programming. So R programming, and I want to replace it by Python. So I type Python here, and now if I just click on the run button, it would say this is Python. Earlier it was this is R programming. Now it has changed to this is Python. So that's how we do a replacement of a character or even a string by another string. All right. So this is what I had to share about strings. There are many more operations that we can perform with string. We'll try to cover some of them in our exercise tutorial, and you can also explore quite a few of them. All right. I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you're liking my tutorial and if you have not yet subscribed, please do subscribe to my channel so that you get an immediate update as and when I upload new tutorials. If you have any doubts, questions, feedback, suggestion, please do post them in the comment section. See you in the next tutorial. Thank you very much.